Hello. As the U.S. Senate debates whether to approve a federal tax and spending cuts bill, we're talking to a representative of the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank on how cuts to SNAP benefits could cause a ripple effect across the region. And the Jewish Federation of Greater Pittsburgh works with thousands of people every year on community safety. The community security director is here to share how their efforts keep Pittsburghers prepared. Plus, from Juneteenth to R&B, get ready to hear the songs of James Brown, Marvin Gaye, and others through the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra. The Principal Pops conductor and a longtime bassist joins us. So pull up a chair and meet us at the corner. Intersection starts right now. Hello, I'm Lisa Smith, the Director of Community Impact at KDKA Plus and the host of Intersections. As the U.S. Senate continues to try to pass the president's budget resolution, some food banks are sounding the alarm that the bill proposes cutting nearly $300 billion from SNAP, the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program. And food banks indicate that that could create increased and wide-ranging need. The Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank is looking at this possible impact. Colleen Young is the Director of Government Affairs with the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank, and she joins us now to talk more about this issue. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having us, Lisa.
Yeah. So, you know, when they talk about these cuts, what are some of the primary concerns about what these cuts could cause?
Yeah. So first, it's important to understand that SNAP is the most effective anti-hunger program in the country. And the cuts that we're talking about now would be the largest cuts in the history of the program. We're looking at nearly $300 billion in cuts over the next 10 years. And our biggest concern is that this will mean that families with kids, seniors, people with disabilities may end up losing their SNAP benefit, which is essential to helping them afford groceries. And we already know the SNAP benefit is really low. So on average, people receive about $6 per person per day through SNAP. And that, if you've gone to the grocery store, as we all do, we know that's a really low amount based on what the cost of groceries actually are. And so we see people coming to us already. And our biggest concern is that if people have fewer dollars to be able to purchase groceries, food banks are just going to be overrun with people looking for that extra support. And we really can't make up the difference. So for every one meal that we provide, SNAP provides 9. So that's a huge discrepancy. And if we see people losing access to benefits that they really need for food assistance, they're going to have to turn to us, and it's going to be really a struggle to keep up with that increased demand.
Yeah, and so I came up with, you guys did an analysis of some of the things that are in this legislation. So we want to show some of those points that you point to on your website. So you already mentioned that it's over almost $300 billion over 10 years. But about $150 billion of that cost would be shifted to states. Is that correct?
Right.
So how are states supposed to cover that amount of money?
Well, that's a good question, and it's a real concern. And we've seen governors from states across the country speaking out to say, wait a minute, our state budgets are already very tight, right? The governor and the legislature are looking at what our state budget should be for this year. And the budget reconciliation bill would shift for the first time ever the cost of benefits to states. And so that looks like right now a sliding scale between either 5% or 25% based on where the state's error rate. If we were to look at today's numbers, Pennsylvania would owe over $1 billion additionally per year, which is just an outrageous amount of money. And there's no way we could come up with those extra dollars without either cutting SNAP, cutting something else, or increasing taxes.
Yeah. The other thing that I think it sounds kind of confusing to some people when they see it, but basically children over 6 would not be considered dependents for their parents.
Right.
What does that mean?
Yeah. So right now, if you have a child under the age of 18, you qualify for SNAP benefits for your family based on all the people that are in the household without any additional requirements. This legislation would basically create a new distinction for families with children age 7 and up to say now they are required to jump through a lot of hoops and to turn in paperwork every month to demonstrate that they are meeting the 20-hour a week work requirements. What we know is that we already have really strict work requirements for people who don't have children and are between the ages of 18 and 54 and don't have a disability. And those time limits currently limit people to 3 months of SNAP or 90 days of SNAP in a 3-year window if they're not able to demonstrate they're working. What we also know is that a lot of those people are working, they're just not able to get the paperwork together to be able to demonstrate that. So we have a family from Cambria County. The daughter has a disability, the mom stays home and takes care of her daughter, and that mom would lose her SNAP benefit. So that would cut the family SNAP benefit by half, because it's a family of 2. That impacts the child as well. So when I shop for myself and my kids, it's all one budget, right? I don't shop a little bit for them, a little bit for me, and we have separate budgets for each person in the household. So we know that this is going to impact kids who will retain their SNAP benefit, but if their parent loses access to grocery funds, that impacts the whole family.
Yeah, we're almost out of time, but this really will fall on the food bank because that's where people go when they don't have. And you guys are already experiencing higher numbers of people coming to the food bank.
Right. Yeah, so we are on track to distribute more food than we have in our 40-year history. So we're just almost at 49 million meals distributed for this year. That's 8 million more meals than we distributed during 2020 during the height of the pandemic. We know that people are struggling. They're already working very hard just to get by. And grocery prices have, really gone up about 25% over the last 5 years, and people are really struggling to make ends meet.
Yeah, and I know you guys have been in contact with your lawmakers and others have as well. But what quickly, like in 10 seconds, what can people do?
Right now, the bill is moving through the Senate. So the most important thing is to reach out to Pennsylvania senators to say we cannot afford to cut food assistance at a time when people are already struggling. And this would impact children, it would impact seniors, it would impact people with disabilities. If the states are forced to take on a huge amount of money every year to cover the cost of benefits, they're going to be forced to cut that program for everyone, and we just can't afford to let that happen.
Yeah, and you guys have a lot of information on your website.
We do.
And it's pittsburghfoodbank.org.
Yes.
And they can go there and learn more. Thank you so much, Colleen, for sharing this information. We really appreciate it. And we'll stay in touch and see what happens.
Thanks, Lisa. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, coming up, one local organization trains thousands on safety protocols in the event of a targeted attack. Intersections, we'll be right back. Washington, D.C. and Boulder, Colorado. 2 anti-Semitic attacks within 10 days, and 6 weeks prior, an attack at Governor Shapiro's residence. Safety is a concern, and locally, the Jewish Federation of Greater Pittsburgh is a major resource on safety preparedness. They work with thousands of people each year. Here to share more about that work is Shawn Brokos. She's the Director of Community Security with the Jewish Federation of Greater Pittsburgh. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Lisa.
Yeah. So, I'm sure a lot of this has developed since the synagogue shooting.
Yes.
But are you surprised that you guys have found yourself in this position of being this go-to resource here in the community when things do happen?
I think the events of October 27th and the synagogue shooting really put us in that position. We were already doing active threat training, preparedness training before that deadly Saturday morning. And we learned firsthand that we have survivors because of the training. So we took that and we've just built upon it and built it out and recognized that it's not enough just to do it in the Jewish community, and we need to be doing this training throughout the entire Pittsburgh community. We're one community, we need to make sure we're all safe. So I do think certainly the events of October 27th put us in that position, but it's something that we learned from and we know now what to do, lessons learned, and best practices.
Right. So what do some of those best practices look like? And I know you have programs that are for individuals and then also for groups.
Right.
Yeah.
So we teach certainly for public settings how to survive if there is a mass casualty, school settings, for our faith-based community, certainly if you're in a synagogue, and what that crisis response should be. And we use the model, it's called run, hide, fight. If you can run as far and as fast as you can. If you don't have that option, the next best thing to do is hide, which is really barricading, getting to a place of safety. And if there's no chance to barricade and you're faced with it, you have to fight. It's the difference between life and death. And so we've started doing a lot of defensive tactics training in our community, the larger community. The goal is to empower people. If there is a crisis, here are the tools in your toolkit, and here are your options, just so that you know what to do.
Yeah. You talk about run, hide, fight, and I know a lot of police agencies have talked about that, but
Yes.
what you guys have a different approach. Your approach is from a trauma-informed perspective.
Yes. We have to. You can't try and teach this in our Jewish community or even the Pittsburgh community because of the impact of that synagogue shooting and the enduring trauma. So we use a trauma-informed approach, and we always start out our trainings with, we recognize this is a difficult topic. We're essentially talking about somebody who's coming in to do harm because of whether it's race, religion, ethnicity. So they're targeting you intentionally, and we know everybody's bringing something to that room. So we really try and use a trauma-informed approach. We answer a lot of questions, but the ultimate goal is to really empower people. It's not to scare. We don't want to come in and be heavy-handed and try and scare people. We want to empower them and lift them up and help them become good decision makers in a time of crisis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when it comes to groups or other, religious institutions, how do you help those organizations?
We will do this training for any organization that contacts us. We certainly work very closely with the faith-based community, who we know it's not just the Jewish community who's been targeted. We have seen several shooting instances at our Black churches. We have seen incidents in the Catholic community. And we tell our faith-based community, we will come and train. There's no cost for this. I'm former law enforcement. My partner that I train with is former law enforcement. We know this all too well. It's our obligation to go out and make sure that all of our organizations are as well trained as possible. And then we also work with our vulnerable nonprofits. Many of them now are being targeted because of maybe, let's say, work they do, whether it's with immigration or other, other causes. We've seen them being targeted too. We want to make sure that everybody has these tools.
Yeah. The other thing is when there are these other high-profile incidents, you guys reach out.
We do,
Yeah.
because I can say firsthand, when the shooting occurred, it was amazing the amount of people who reached out from all walks of life, all different communities, saying, how can we help, how can we support? So when somebody in our community or across the country, whether it's the museum in Washington, D.C. or out in Boulder, we reach out and say, hey, how can we help you? Is there anything that we can do, whether it's from a security perspective or from a trauma response? We have one of our partner agencies, it's the 1027 Healing Partnership, and they were formed after the synagogue shooting. It was a federally funded program, and it's a group of counselors who are crisis trained, and they will offer to go on site and visit and and try and help the community heal.
Yeah.
And as we know, it takes a long time to heal.
Yes. Well, we really appreciate you, sharing that information, because I think it's really important that people know that this resource is here. I know that you have information on your website as well, and so we will make sure that we are showing that so that people can go there and learn more. Thank you so much for being with us, Sean.
Thank you, Lisa. My pleasure.
All right. Well, coming up, the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra is highlighting the Kings of Soul this month. Intersections, we'll be right back. Marvin Gaye, The Temptations, James Brown, just a few of the singers that headlined the R&B music in the 50s and 60s. And they laid the foundation for much of the music that is on the airwaves today. That's why the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra has a special performance coming up featuring songs from those artists and several others. It's called The Kings of Soul. And so joining us now is Principal Pops Conductor of the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra, Byron Stripling. And also with us here in studio is longtime bassist Jeff Grubbs. Thank you both so much for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Pleasure to be with you.
Yes. So Byron, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about this performance with the Kings of Soul, and how did this all kind of come about?
Well, one of my dear friends put this show together, and we've worked together on several shows. And seeing as how I'm a soul man, seems as I want, of course, by the way, that opens up the whole show, that song, Soul Man. But it was a chance for us to take all the kings of soul, whether that be a James Brown or the Temptation or the Four Tops or the Spinners. And so all this music is infectious to anyone who hears it and feels it, and to hear it live, that's the next level. So we've taken the best songs from My Girl to Nighttime is the Right Time. You know, Ray Charles used to sing that one. You've heard Love's Theme. You know, I think that was Barry White did that one. Let's Get It On. And even to Michael Jackson, I Wanna Rock With You. And the closer is actually Your Love Keeps Lifting Me Higher and Higher.
Wow. So how do you combine R&B music with orchestra and, you know, really that classical background?
Well, first of all, anybody that has a pulse loves this music, and if they have even a better pulse, they'll realize that it's some of the greatest music ever created. So people are not foreign to it. People love great music, and they love this music, so it's not difficult to get an orchestra to join us. Now, of course, all their stuff is written out. All the stuff that we play is more improvised. Like if I take a trumpet solo on this, or if you hear our singers out there singing and performing with this, it's all improvised in that uniquely African-American way. So putting the two together is not difficult.
Yeah. So, you know, Jeff, you're here. I know you're not going to be part of that particular show, but you were telling me that you have been with the PSO for quite a number of years. Tell me a little bit about your background with the PSO.
Well, this is the end of my 29th season with the orchestra. I was hired in 1995 by Lauren Mizell. I played his last European tour, and then joined the orchestra the next fall in 1996, when Maurice Janssens was our music director. Time just flew by, and here we are.
Yeah.
So it's incredible.
Yeah.
And I just feel really fortunate every day, and count my blessings that I'm a part of this amazing organization.
Yeah. Tell me, what is it about the bass for you? Did the bass choose you, or did you choose the bass?
I think the bass chose me, actually. You know, because when I come from a family of non-musical music appreciators, I guess. You know, and my mother used to listen to all kinds of music on the stereo, and she would turn the bass EQ almost all the way up and the treble down. So, you know, I had no choice but to hear the bass first. And when it came time for me to choose a musical instrument in school, I actually chose the double bass, but they didn't have one. They actually had the violin was the closest thing. So I played that first until I got older, and then I was able to get a hold of the instrument that I wanted to play.
Yeah. Well, you will be part of the Juneteenth performance.
That's correct, yes.
So will that have more of a jazz feel to it?
Definitely, yeah. In fact, I think that the venue is only large enough to fit about 18 instruments. So that's about the size of a big band.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're going to have for that performance.
Yeah. So Byron, back to you. We have a couple minutes left, but you know, you're also going to be conducting for both the Juneteenth and the Kings of Soul. What do you want people to take from these performances, especially culturally?
I want them to take the rich palette that we paint on as African Americans or Black Americans, and realize that the music is central to what all Black people do. And the case in point would be, rather than becoming consumed with the burden of bitterness for what might have happened in your life, we celebrate everything. Whether that's with a spiritual, like sometimes I feel like a motherless child. We sing the pain away rather than go around shooting up people and doing all those crazy things. So in the African American tradition, music is the central and the thing that's the first in front of everyone's mind. If you go to church, to me, it was the music that always moved everything through any church service, whether it's a jazz concert, you go there, it's the power of the music and the way that Black people have used improvisation for years to lift people up, as they used to say, turn them around and plant their feet on solid ground.
Yeah. Well, we want to show everybody how they can go to see these performances, both the Kings of Soul and Juneteenth. Juneteenth is at Mellon Park on Juneteenth, which is June 19th. And then also you have 3 performances for the Kings of Soul. That is on the 20th, the 21st, and the 22nd. So it all flows together. Thank you both so much for joining us, and I'm sure that everyone is going to enjoy all of these great performances. We really appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome.
Pleasure.
You're welcome. And I'll have my last word when we come back. U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin has blazed a trail of LGBTQ firsts in American politics. In 1993, she became the first openly lesbian woman elected to the Wisconsin State Assembly. Then, in 1998, the first elected to the U.S. House. And in 2012, the first elected to the U.S. Senate. Baldwin continues to serve in the Senate, re-elected for a 3rd term last year. Safety. It's locking the doors at home, locking the car doors, not walking alone at night, holding a child's hand while crossing the street. But sometimes we take safety for granted. We tell ourselves that won't happen to me or that can't happen here until it does. Having a plan and being prepared for the unexpected seems to be more necessary than in the past. And today's safety is a state of mind. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Intersections.